Welcome to tonight's peaceful journey through the ancient lands of Japan, where honor and tranquility intertwine like morning mist over sacred mountains. Tonight, we'll walk softly through centuries of tradition and wisdom. If you enjoy peaceful stories like this, consider subscribing to our channel and turning on notifications, so you never miss a night of restful sleep. Let's begin by settling into this moment together. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, feeling your chest gently rise, and now exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any tension from your day. One more deep breath in, holding it for just a moment, and let it flow out naturally. Feel your body sinking deeper into comfort. Over the next 20 chapters, we'll explore the serene world of Japanese civilization and the noble samurai. We'll discover ancient temples where monks meditated in perfect silence, wander through gardens designed to bring inner peace, and learn about warriors who found strength not in anger, but in discipline and respect. Picture yourself walking along a quiet stone path, cherry blossoms falling gently like snow around you. The air is clean and cool, filled with the subtle fragrance of jasmine and pine. In this peaceful realm, honor isn't about conflict, but about living with integrity. Tradition isn't about the past, but about timeless wisdom that calms the soul. The samurai understood that true power comes from inner stillness, that the sharpest sword is guided by the gentlest hand. Tonight, we'll embrace their teachings of patience, mindfulness, and finding beauty in simplicity. Breathe deeply, and let the journey to ancient Japan begin. Chapter 1. The Way of the Warrior. Bushido. In this moment, we travel to the land of the rising sun, where ancient wisdom flows like gentle streams through bamboo forests, and the sacred code of Bushido shaped not just warriors, but an entire civilization's understanding of honor and grace. Close your eyes and breathe slowly, feeling yourself transported to feudal Japan, where mist rises from tranquil valleys, and the first light of dawn touches the curved rooftops of traditional temples. The air is crisp and pure, carrying the soft sound of temple bells echoing across peaceful villages. Bushido, the way of the warrior, was far more than a code for battle. It was a philosophy of living with integrity, compassion, and unwavering respect for all life. Picture yourself in a serene dojo, where tatami mats cover the wooden floors, and shoji screens filter golden sunlight into gentle patterns. Here, young samurai would spend countless hours in quiet meditation, learning that true strength comes not from the sword, but from the disciplined mind and compassionate heart. The 7 virtues of Bushido flowed through every aspect of daily life. Rectitude, the moral backbone that kept warriors true to their principles. Courage, not the absence of fear, but acting with honor despite uncertainty. Benevolence, the gentle strength that protects the innocent. Respect, shown to all beings regardless of station. Honesty, as pure as mountain spring water. Honor, more precious than gold or jade. And loyalty, steady as the ancient pine trees that weather every storm. Imagine walking through a traditional Japanese garden, where every stone has been placed with intention, every branch pruned with mindfulness. The sound of water trickling over smooth rocks creates a natural lullaby, while koi fish glide silently through clear ponds, reflecting the soft pink petals of cherry blossoms. This is where samurai would come to find inner peace, understanding that harmony with nature reflected harmony within oneself. In the quiet hours before dawn, these noble warriors would practice zazen meditation, sitting in perfect stillness as the world awakened around them. Their breathing became as rhythmic as ocean waves, their thoughts as clear as morning dew. They learned that the greatest victories were won not on battlefield, but in the quiet moments of self-mastery, when anger transformed into understanding, when fear became wisdom, when pride dissolved into humble service. The tea ceremony, ikebana flower arranging, and calligraphy were not mere pastimes, but sacred practices that taught patience, precision, and appreciation for beauty in simplicity. Each movement was deliberate, each breath intentional, creating a moving meditation that brought peace to both body and spirit. Rest now in this Japanese wisdom. Chapter 2. The origins of the samurai. Guardians of the land, imagine yourself walking among cherry blossoms and ancient castles. As we journey back to the Heian period, when the first warriors emerged from the mists of time. Picture the year 794, when Kyoto became the imperial capital, and the need for protectors of the land first stirred in the hearts of noble families. Breathe slowly, and feel yourself transported to the rolling hills of ancient Nippon, where rice fields stretch like golden silk toward distant mountains. The air is sweet with the fragrance of plum blossoms, and the gentle sound of bamboo wind chimes drifts across peaceful valleys. Here, in this serene landscape, the samurai class was born not from violence, but from a deep desire to protect what was beautiful and sacred. The word samurai comes from the verb saburao, meaning to serve. These early warriors were not conquerors, but guardians, sworn to protect the imperial court and the farming communities that sustained the realm. Picture them riding through morning mist on their sturdy horses, their lacquered armor catching the first rays of dawn, moving with quiet dignity across the countryside they loved. In the beginning, these protectors were farmers themselves. Men who understood the rhythm of seasons, the patience required to nurture rice seedlings, and the precious nature of harvest time. When bandits threatened their villages, or when rival clans disputed territory, they would set aside their farming tools and take up the sword, not in anger, but with the same careful attention they brought to tending their fields. The Minamoto and Taira clans were among the first great warrior families, their names whispered with respect in the imperial halls of Kyoto. Imagine the elegant simplicity of their ancestral homes, with sliding doors of rice paper, tatami floors that welcomed bare feet, and gardens where stone lanterns cast gentle shadows among carefully pruned pine trees. These were places where strategy was discussed over bowls of green tea, where poetry was as valued as swordsmanship. As you rest, picture the forge where the first katana were created. The master swordsmith works in meditative silence, folding steel again and again, each hammer blow a prayer for the weapon's future bearer. Sparks dance like fireflies in the dim workshop, while outside, temple bells mark the passing hours. The blade that emerges is more than metal. It becomes the soul of the warrior who will carry it, a symbol of duty rather than destruction. These early samurai developed their skills through disciplines that brought inner peace. Kyudo, the way of the bow, taught them to breathe deeply, to find stillness within movement. Each arrow released was a meditation, requiring perfect balance between intention and surrender. The target was not an enemy, but their own limitations, their own fears and doubts. The bond between lord and retainer grew from mutual respect and shared values. Picture a young warrior kneeling before his daimyo in a ceremony of loyalty, cherry petals falling softly around them like nature's blessing. This was not mere submission, but a sacred promise to protect what they both held dear, the people, the land, and the traditions that gave life meaning. In quiet moments, these guardians would practice calligraphy, their brushstrokes flowing like water over rice paper, writing poems about the changing seasons, the beauty of moonlight on snow, the sound of rain on temple roofs. They understood that a warrior's strength came not only from the sword, but from cultivating appreciation for life's gentle moments. The tea ceremony became their moving meditation, each gesture deliberate and mindful. The simple act of preparing and sharing tea taught them patience, humility, and the art of being fully present. In the soft light of paper lanterns, surrounded by the subtle fragrance of incense, they learned that true power lay in service to others. Let the ancient honor settle over you. Chapter 3. The katana, soul of the samurai, travel across the centuries with me, to a sacred forge nestled in the mountains of ancient Nippon, where master swordsmiths transformed raw steel into works of art that would become the very soul of the warrior class. Breathe deeply, and feel the reverent atmosphere of this hallowed workshop, where creation itself becomes a form of prayer. Picture yourself standing at the entrance of Masamune's forge, the legendary swordsmith whose name still whispers through history like wind through bamboo groves. The workshop is dimly lit by the warm glow of burning charcoal, while outside, morning mist clings to pine branches heavy with snow. The air carries the scent of cherry wood smoke and the metallic tang of heated steel, creating an atmosphere of focused tranquility. The master begins his work before dawn, purifying himself with cold mountain water, donning white robes that symbolize spiritual cleanliness. This is not merely craftsmanship, but a sacred ritual that can take months to complete. Watch as he selects the tomahawk steel, examining each piece with the patience of a monk studying ancient scrolls. His weathered hands move with decades of wisdom, feeling for the perfect balance of carbon and iron. The folding process begins like a meditation in motion. The steel is heated until it glows like a sunset, then hammered flat, folded, and heated again. Each fold doubles the layers, creating thousands of microscopic sheets that will give the blade its legendary strength and flexibility. The rhythmic hammering becomes a heartbeat, steady and hypnotic, echoing off the stone walls like temple drums. Sparks dance through the air like golden fireflies, each one carrying away impurities, leaving only what is pure and strong. The master's breathing synchronizes with his work, inhaling during the heating, exhaling with each measured strike. His apprentices move silently around him, tending the fire, preparing tools, learning through observation and reverence. The differential hardening process reveals the true artistry. Clay mixed with charcoal powder is applied to the blade in careful patterns. When heated and quenched in spring water, this creates the hamon. The beautiful temper line that flows along the edge like frozen lightning. No two blades are identical. Each carries its own unique pattern, its own spiritual fingerprint. As the blade takes shape, it becomes more than metal. The gentle curve, the perfect balance point, the way light plays across the polished surface, all speak to the harmony between function and beauty that defines the culture of the rising sun. The katana is designed not for brutality, but for precision, efficiency, and the swift resolution of conflict with minimal suffering. The polishing process alone takes weeks, using stones of increasing fineness, each stage revealing more of the blade's inner beauty. The polisher works in meditative silence, his movements as graceful as a tea ceremony, gradually unveiling the grain structure that flows like water frozen in time. The finished surface becomes a mirror, reflecting not just light, but the soul of its future bearer. The mounting ceremony is equally sacred. The tsuba, or handguard, is often decorated with nature motifs, cherry blossoms, cranes in flight, or waves that never break. The handle is wrapped in silk or leather, providing perfect grip while maintaining elegant simplicity. Every component is chosen for both practical function and spiritual significance. When complete, the katana is presented to its warrior with deep ceremony. The blade is never drawn carelessly, but only with purpose and respect. It becomes an extension of the samurai's spirit, a reminder of duty, discipline, and the responsibility that comes with power. The warrior understands that this weapon must never be used in anger, but only in service of justice and protection of the innocent. In quiet moments, the samurai would meditate while holding his sheathed blade, feeling its perfect weight, contemplating the dedication of the craftsman who created it, and the generations of wisdom embedded in its steel. The katana taught patience, for it was created slowly, respect, for it demanded careful handling, and humility, for it reminded the warrior that true strength comes from restraint. Feel this discipline becoming part of you. Chapter 4. The shogunate, military government. Let yourself drift to the world of the samurai, as we journey to the coastal city of Kamakura in the year 1185, where Minamoto no Yoritomo established the first shogunate, creating a new form of governance that would shape the land of the rising sun for centuries to come. Breathe slowly, and feel the sea breeze carrying the scent of salt and pine across this historic peninsula. Picture yourself walking along the ancient stone paths of Kamakura, where massive bronze statues of Buddha sit in eternal meditation, surrounded by gardens where camellia flowers bloom in quiet splendor. The sound of temple bells mingles with the distant crash of ocean waves, creating a natural symphony that speaks to the harmony between spiritual wisdom and earthly responsibility. The shogunate represented a revolutionary idea, that military leaders could govern with the same discipline and virtue they brought to the battlefield. Yoritomo understood that true leadership required not just strength, but the wisdom to know when strength should be restrained. Picture him in his simple wooden palace, kneeling on tatami mats, consulting with his most trusted retainers by the soft light of paper lanterns. This was governance rooted in the principles of bushido, where decisions were made not for personal gain, but for the welfare of all people under their protection. The shogun served as the bridge between the divine authority of the emperor and the practical needs of a warrior society, maintaining reverence for tradition while adapting to the changing times. Imagine the morning ritual in the shogun's residence, beginning before dawn with meditation in the Zen garden, where carefully raked gravel represents flowing water, and standing stones symbolize mountains reaching toward heaven. The early ht filters through bamboo groves, casting gentle shadows that dance with each breath of wind. Here, in this peaceful sanctuary, the most important decisions of state were contemplated. The administrative system they created was elegant in its simplicity, based on personal relationships of loyalty and mutual obligation, rather than abstract laws or bureaucratic complexity. Picture the ceremony where a daimyo pledges allegiance to the shogun, both men understanding that this bond represents not submission, but partnership in service to something greater than themselves. The Hojo regents who later guided the shogunate embodied the principle of leading from behind. Like master gardeners who shape without forcing, they influenced through wisdom rather than commands. Their council meetings were conducted with the formality of tea ceremonies, each participant speaking only when necessary, listening with the full attention of monks in meditation. During the Mongol invasions of 1274 and 1281, the shogunate demonstrated that true strength comes from unity of purpose. Picture the coastal defenses of Kyushu, where warriors from across Nippon gathered not as strangers, but as brothers bound by shared values. They faced the vast enemy fleet with the calm determination of those who fight not for conquest, but to protect what they hold sacred. The typhoons that scattered the Mongol ships were seen as divine wind, kamikaze, a sign that the kami spirits blessed their cause. But the warriors knew that heaven helps those who help themselves. Their victory came not from supernatural intervention alone, but from years of disciplined preparation, strategic thinking, and unwavering commitment to their principles. In the quiet hours after battle, these defenders would gather around small fires on the beach, sharing rice and tea while tending to the wounded, enemy and ally alike. This was the true spirit of the shogunate, strength tempered by compassion, victory without vengeance, power exercised with humility. The cultural flowering that occurred under shogunate rule reflected their understanding that a society's greatness is measured not by its military might, but by its artistic achievements. No theater developed during this period, combining poetry, music, and dance into performances of sublime beauty. Each movement was as precise as swordplay, each word as carefully chosen as a military strategy. The rock gardens of Ryo-in-ji Temple were created during this era, 15 stones arranged in perfect asymmetry on a bed of white gravel. Visitors would sit on the wooden veranda, contemplating the interplay of form and emptiness, finding in this simple composition profound truths about balance, restraint, and the beauty that emerges when human intention aligns with natural principles. Tea ceremony reached new heights of refinement, transforming a simple beverage into a moving meditation on hospitality, respect, and the appreciation of transient beauty. The shogun himself would kneel humbly before his guests, demonstrating that true authority comes from service, not domination. Allow the bushido to accompany you in dreams. Chapter 5. The Code of Honor, Loyalty and Sacrifice. Journey with me now to the time of Bushido, when the ancient castles of feudal Nippon stood like silent guardians against mountain backdrops, their curved rooftops reaching toward heaven like prayers carved in wood and stone. Breathe deeply, and feel yourself transported to these sacred strongholds, where the code of the warrior was lived with unwavering devotion. Picture yourself approaching Himeji Castle at dawn, its white walls gleaming like fresh snow in the morning light. Cherry blossoms drift across the stone courtyards like nature's confetti, while the gentle sound of bamboo fountains creates a rhythm as steady as a meditation bell. Here, within these protective walls, the deepest principles of bushido were practiced daily. The code began with gi, rectitude, the moral compass that guided every decision. Imagine a young warrior kneeling in the castle's inner sanctum, before his lord, receiving instruction not in swordplay, but in the art of living with integrity. The sliding doors are painted with scenes of cranes in flight, symbols of longevity and peace, while incense burns softly, filling the air with the fragrance of sandalwood. Courage, was understood not as the absence of fear, but as right action despite uncertainty. Picture the castle's training grounds at twilight, where warriors practice not only with steel, but with wooden swords, learning that true bravery lies in protecting the innocent, even when no one is watching. The sound of bamboo striking bamboo echoes across the courtyard, a percussion of discipline and dedication. Jin, benevolence, flowed through every interaction like water through a mountain stream. The strongest warriors were those who showed gentleness to children, respect to elders, and compassion to all living beings. In the castle's gardens, these noble souls would tend to wounded birds, water delicate flowers, and find in these small acts of kindness the same satisfaction others sought in conquest. Respect, was shown through countless daily rituals. The way tea was served, how weapons were maintained, the careful attention given to calligraphy practice. Each gesture was an opportunity to demonstrate reverence for tradition, for others, and for the sacred nature of existence itself. Picture the evening ceremony where armor is cleaned and polished, not from vanity, but from gratitude for protection received. Makoto, honesty and sincerity, meant that a warrior's word was more binding than any written contract. When promises were made in the castle's great hall, beneath banners bearing family crests, they were sealed not with signatures, but with the understanding that one's reputation was more precious than life itself. The soft light of paper lanterns illuminated faces marked by quiet determination. Meiyo, honor and glory, came not from personal achievement, but from faithful service to ideals greater than oneself. The castle walls displayed not trophies of war, but poems celebrating the changing seasons, paintings of peaceful landscapes, and scrolls containing the wisdom of ancient sages. True glory was found in moments of selfless sacrifice, in choosing duty over comfort, principle over profit. Shugi, loyalty, was the golden thread that wove all other virtues together. Picture the ceremony of seppuku, not as an act of violence, but as the ultimate expression of fidelity to one's principles. When a warrior could no longer serve with integrity, he chose to depart with dignity, surrounded by cherry blossoms, his final breath a prayer for those he left behind. The famous tale of the 47 Ronin exemplifies this devotion. After their lord was forced to commit seppuku, these masterless warriors spent 2 years planning to avenge his death, not from anger, but from love. When their mission was complete, they calmly accepted their own fate, knowing they had fulfilled their deepest obligation. Their graves at Sengaku-ji Temple still receive offerings of incense and prayers. In the castle's moonlit gardens, these principles came alive through daily practice. Morning meditation in the Zen garden, where raked gravel and carefully placed stones taught lessons about balance and restraint. Afternoon sessions of flower arranging, where the placement of each branch required the same precision as swordwork. Evening gatherings for poetry composition, where warriors expressed their deepest feelings through 17 syllables of haiku. And as you rest, contemplating this code of honor, if these stories of bushido bring you peace, leave a comment below telling us where you're listening from. Perhaps from Tokyo, New York, London, or somewhere else entirely. We love knowing we're connected through these ancient values. The castle bells ring softly in the distance, calling all souls to remember that true strength comes from serving something greater than ourselves. That loyalty is love made visible through action, and that sacrifice, when offered freely, transforms both giver and receiver. Breathe slowly, and let it fade away. Chapter 6. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary samurai. Close your eyes and journey with me to feudal Japan, where the greatest swordsman who ever lived walked paths of cherry blossoms and mountain mist. Miyamoto Musashi, born in 1584, became not just a master of the blade, but a philosopher whose wisdom transcends the centuries. Breathe deeply, and feel yourself transported to the peaceful era when this legendary warrior sought perfection through discipline and meditation. Picture the young Musashi in the village of Miyamoto, surrounded by rolling hills where bamboo groves whisper ancient secrets. His childhood was spent not in luxury, but in quiet contemplation of nature's rhythms, watching how water flows around stones, how birds move through air with effortless grace, how cherry blossoms fall without clinging to their branches. These observations would later become the foundation of his revolutionary sword technique. At 13, he fought his first duel against a seasoned warrior named Arima Kihei. Picture this encounter not as violence, but as a dance of destiny. The morning mist clings to the ground as the two figures face each other in perfect stillness. Musashi's wooden staff moves with the fluid precision of wind through wheat. His victory comes not from anger or aggression, but from a mind as clear as mountain spring water. For the next 17 years, Musashi wandered the length and breadth of Nippon, engaging in over 60 duels, never once tasting defeat. But each victory taught him that true mastery lay not in conquering others, but in conquering oneself. Imagine him walking the ancient Tokaido road, his straw hat shading eyes that see beauty in every sunset, every dewdrop, every moment of perfect silence. His most famous encounter was with Sasaki Kojira on Ganryu Island. Picture the scene at dawn. Two masters standing on opposite shores of a misty inlet. Musashi arrives deliberately late, having spent the morning carving a wooden sword from an oar, longer than any metal blade. The duel lasts only moments, but represents years of preparation, meditation, and understanding that victory belongs to the mind that remains calm in chaos. After this triumph, Musashi retreated from dueling, recognizing that true strength comes from creation rather than destruction. He spent his later years in caves and mountain hermitages, writing, painting, and developing his philosophy of the void. Picture him in Rigondo Cave, brush in hand, creating ink paintings of birds and flowers with the same precision he once brought to swordwork. His masterpiece, The Book of Five Rings, was written in these final years of solitude. Each chapter represents an element: earth, water, fire, wind, and void, teaching that mastery in any art requires understanding of natural principles. Imagine him writing by candlelight, each character flowing onto rice paper like water finding its perfect course. His words become a meditation on strategy that applies not just to combat, but to living with purpose and clarity. The Way of Two Swords, his signature technique, represented perfect ambidexterity of body and mind. Picture him practicing at sunrise, both hands moving in harmony like paired cranes in flight. This was not mere swordplay, but a moving meditation that taught the unity of opposites, strength and gentleness, action and stillness, victory and humility. Musashi understood that the greatest enemy is not an external opponent, but one's own fear, doubt, and attachment to outcome. In his mountain retreats, he would sit for hours in zazen meditation, watching thoughts arise and dissolve like clouds across an empty sky. His breathing became as natural as ocean waves, his awareness as vast as the void between stars. His artistic pursuits revealed the same mastery he brought to martial arts. His paintings of Daruma, the Buddhist patriarch, capture profound spiritual insight with just a few bold brushstrokes. His calligraphy flows with the same fluid power as his swordwork, demonstrating that all arts spring from the same source, a mind unified with the natural way. The tea ceremonies he attended in his later years became opportunities for practicing presence and humility. Picture him kneeling in a simple tea house, his massive frame folded with surprising grace, receiving each cup as if it were the first taste of water after crossing a desert. These moments taught him that true victory lies not in defeating others, but in serving them with genuine respect. His death poem, written as he lay dying in Kumamoto, speaks of a life lived without regret. The way I have traveled leads to the void. I have no regrets about anything under heaven. Picture him breathing his final breath with the same calm attention he brought to every moment, his face peaceful as moonlight on still water. Masashi's legacy lives not in the duels he won, but in the wisdom he shared. That mastery comes through patient practice, that strength grows from flexibility, and that the greatest victories are won in the quiet moments when we choose discipline over comfort, principle over convenience, service over self. Carry this samurai spirit gently in your heart. Chapter 7. Seppuku. Death with honor. In this moment, we travel to the land of the rising sun, to understand one of the most profound expressions of the warrior spirit, seppuku. The ritual that transformed death into an act of ultimate dignity. Breathe slowly, and approach this sacred ceremony with the reverence it deserves, for here we witness not violence, but the deepest commitment to principle over life itself. Picture a traditional tea room in feudal Nippon, where tatami mats cover the wooden floor and shoji screens filter golden afternoon light into gentle patterns. The air is fragrant with burning sandalwood incense, while outside, cherry blossoms drift past the windows like nature's blessing. This serene setting becomes the stage for an act of profound spiritual significance. The warrior kneels in seiza position, his back straight as a mountain pine, wearing a white kimono that symbolizes purity of intention. Before him lies a tanto, a short blade wrapped in white silk, gleaming with the same reverence as an altar offering. His breathing is calm and measured, each inhalation a prayer, each exhalation a release of earthly attachments. This ritual emerged not from despair, but from the understanding that some principles are more precious than existence itself. When a warrior could no longer serve with integrity, when duty conflicted with survival, seppuku offered a path to preserve what mattered most, one's spiritual essence. Picture the ceremony as a final tea gathering, where death becomes the ultimate host, welcoming the soul home. The kaishakunen, the trusted second, stands ready with his katana. His role is not that of executioner, but of compassionate friend, ensuring that suffering is brief and dignity preserved. Often this would be the warrior's dearest companion, someone who understood that this final service was an act of love. Picture him dressed in formal hakama, his face serene with the gravity of sacred duty. Before the ritual begins, the warrior often composes his death poem, Jisei no Ku, 17 syllables that capture a lifetime of wisdom. These verses speak not of regret or sorrow, but of gratitude for the privilege of living according to Bushido. Imagine him writing with a brush dipped in ink as black as night, each character flowing onto rice paper with the same precision he once brought to swordwork. The famous death poem of Oda Doken echoes through the centuries. Had I not known that I was already dead, I would have mourned my loss of life. These words reveal the warrior's understanding that true death comes not from the stopping of breath, but from the abandonment of principle. Picture him reciting these lines as cherry petals fall around him like nature's applause. The ceremony proceeds with the measured pace of a tea ritual, each movement deliberate and mindful. The warrior purifies his hands and mouth with sacred water, bows to the four directions in gratitude, and speaks his final words, often expressing concern not for himself, but for those he leaves behind. His voice carries the same calm authority he brought to every aspect of life. In the moment of commitment, time seems to slow like honey flowing from a wooden spoon. The warrior's mind becomes as clear as mountain air, free from fear, doubt, or attachment to outcome. Picture this not as an ending, but as a transformation, like a butterfly emerging from its cocoon, or morning mist rising toward heaven. The 47 Ronin demonstrated this principle most famously. After avenging their master's death, they gathered at Sengakuji Temple, knowing their fate was sealed. They spent their final night in meditation and poetry, sharing sake and memories, transforming their last hours into a celebration of loyalty fulfilled. Their graves still receive offerings from those who understand that some values transcend mortality. Historical accounts speak of warriors who faced this moment with such serenity that witnesses were moved to tears, not of sorrow, but of awe at the human capacity for transcendence. Picture the scene as observers kneel in respectful silence, understanding they are witnessing something sacred, a soul-choosing principle over preservation. The ritual taught that death, when approached with proper preparation and intention, becomes not defeat but victory. The warrior dies not as a victim of circumstance, but as the author of his own destiny, choosing the manner and meaning of his departure. This was the ultimate expression of self-mastery, the final demonstration that the spirit remains free even when the body is constrained. In the quiet aftermath, as incense smoke rises toward heaven and cherry blossoms continue their eternal dance, those present understand they have witnessed not tragedy, but triumph. The warrior has completed his earthly service with the same dedication he brought to every duty, leaving behind not a corpse, but a legacy of unwavering commitment to what matters most. This ceremony reminds us that life's value lies not in its duration, but in its dedication to worthy principles. That courage means facing the ultimate unknown with the same calm attention we bring to daily meditation. And that true immortality comes not from avoiding death, but from living so fully that our example echoes through generations. Rest now in this Japanese wisdom. Chapter 8. Japanese Castles. Fortresses of Power. Imagine yourself walking among cherry blossoms and ancient castles, where the magnificent fortresses of feudal Nippon rise like prayers carved in stone and timber. These architectural marvels were more than military strongholds. They were symbols of harmony between human ambition and natural beauty. Breathe deeply, and feel yourself transported to these sacred citadels where warriors lived according to the principles of bushido. Picture yourself approaching Himeji Castle at dawn, its pristine white walls gleaming like fresh snow against the morning sky. Known as the White Heron Castle, its elegant curves and soaring rooflines mirror the graceful flight of birds across mountain valleys. Cherry blossoms drift across the stone courtyards like nature's confetti, while the gentle sound of temple bells echoes from nearby monasteries, creating a symphony of peace and power. The castle's design reflects the deepest wisdom of the warrior class. Built not merely for defense, but as a manifestation of the harmony between strength and beauty. The multiple levels rise in perfect proportion, each floor smaller than the one below, creating a silhouette that seems to float weightlessly above its stone foundation. Picture yourself climbing the wooden stairs, each step worn smooth by centuries of respectful footsteps. From the highest tower, the view encompasses rice fields that stretch like golden silk toward distant mountains. The daimyo who ruled from this elevated sanctuary understood that true power comes from protecting the land and people below, not from dominating them. Imagine the morning ritual where the Lord would greet the sunrise, offering prayers for the welfare of all souls under his protection. The interior spaces speak to the refined aesthetics of the rising sun. Sliding doors painted with scenes of cranes and pine trees, tatami mats that welcome bare feet with gentle warmth, and alcoves displaying single flowers arranged with the precision of meditation. Here, in these peaceful chambers, the most important decisions were made not through force, but through contemplation and consensus. Osaka Castle tells a different story, built by Toyotomi Hideyoshi as a symbol of unification. Its massive stone walls required the cooperation of daimyo from across the realm, each contributing their finest craftsmen and materials. Picture the construction as a moving meditation on collaboration, where former enemies worked side by side, transforming conflict into creation. The castle's gardens were designed as outdoor temples, where warriors could practice the arts of peace alongside the disciplines of war. Imagine walking through these cultivated landscapes at twilight, where stone lanterns cast gentle shadows among carefully pruned pine trees. The sound of water trickling over smooth rocks creates a natural lullaby, while koi fish glide silently through sea. Leer ponds, reflecting the soft colors of sunset. The tea houses within castle grounds served as neutral spaces where even rivals could meet in harmony. Picture these simple structures, built from natural materials that age gracefully with time. Here, the ceremony of preparing and sharing tea became a moving meditation on hospitality, humility, and the appreciation of transient beauty. The most powerful lords would kneel humbly before their guests, demonstrating that true authority comes from service. During times of siege, these castles became communities of shared purpose. Picture the defenders not as warriors consumed by bloodlust, but as protectors motivated by love for what they defended. In the quiet hours between battles, they would gather in the inner courtyards, sharing rice and stories, tending to the wounded with the same care they showed to cherry trees in spring. The architectural innovations of these fortresses reflected the ingenuity born of necessity. Curved walls that deflected cannon fire, hidden passages that allowed for strategic movement, and water systems that could sustain life during the longest sieges. Yet even these practical elements were executed with aesthetic grace, proving that function and beauty need never be enemies. The reconstruction of these castles after World War II became acts of cultural resurrection. Master carpenters used traditional techniques passed down through generations, joining massive timbers without nails, creating structures that flex with earthquakes rather than resist them. Picture these artisans working in meditative silence, each cut and joint an offering to the ancestors who first raised these monuments. Today, visitors from around the world climb these ancient steps, feeling the same sense of awe that moved warriors centuries ago. The castles stand as reminders that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to create something worthy of protection. Their white walls catch the light of each new dawn, eternal symbols of the marriage between power and principle. In the moonlit courtyards, where night-blooming jasmine fills the air with subtle fragrance, one can almost hear the whispered conversations of long-departed souls, discussing poetry and philosophy, strategy and statecraft, always seeking the path that leads to peace through strength, justice through mercy, and victory through virtue. Let the ancient honor settle over you. Chapter 9. Zen and the Samurai. Warriors' meditation travel across the centuries with me, to the sacred temples where warriors of feudal Nippon discovered that the greatest battles are won not on distant fields, but within the quiet chambers of the human heart. Breathe deeply, and feel yourself transported to these peaceful sanctuaries where the way of the sword merged with the path of enlightenment. Picture yourself approaching Engaku-ji Temple in Kamakura, where morning mist clings to ancient pine trees and the sound of temple bells creates ripples of tranquility across still ponds. Here, beneath curved rooftops that seem to float like clouds, samurai warriors knelt in zazen meditation, seeking the same precision of mind they brought to swordwork. The marriage between Zen and Bushido was natural, both requiring absolute presence, unwavering discipline, and the courage to face reality without illusion. Imagine a warrior removing his armor in the temple courtyard, each piece set aside with the same reverence shown to sacred objects. The transformation from protector to seeker requires only the willingness to be still. In the meditation hall, rows of warriors sit in perfect silence, their breathing synchronized like ocean waves. The wooden floor creaks softly under shifting weight, while incense smoke rises toward rafters darkened by centuries of prayer. Here, the mind that once calculated battle strategies learns to rest in pure awareness, finding peace in the space between thoughts. Master Takwon Soho taught that the enlightened warrior moves without hesitation, not from recklessness, but from a mind free of doubt and attachment. Picture him instructing a young samurai in the temple garden, where raked gravel represents flowing water and standing stones symbolize mountains reaching toward heaven. The perfect cut comes when the sword moves by itself, guided not by ego, but by natural wisdom. The rock garden at Ryōan-ji became a textbook for warrior monks, 15 stones arranged in perfect asymmetry on a bed of white sand. From any viewing angle, only 14 stones are visible, teaching that completeness includes incompleteness, that true mastery embraces mystery. Imagine sitting on the wooden veranda, contemplating this lesson as cherry blossoms drift past like thoughts arising and dissolving. Tea ceremony became moving meditation for these spiritual warriors. Each gesture deliberate and mindful. The simple act of preparing and sharing tea transformed into profound teaching about presence, humility, and interconnection. Picture the tea master's hands, scarred from years of sword practice, now moving with the same precision to whisk matcha into jade-colored foam. The famous swordsman Yagayu Munenori wrote that the highest technique requires no technique. When mind and body become one, when breathing synchronizes with universal rhythm, the warrior acts not from personal will but from the natural flow of existence. In temple training, this unity was cultivated through hours of sitting meditation, walking meditation, and mindful attention to daily tasks. Calligraphy practice became another foe. Of moving meditation. Picture a warrior monk grinding ink with the same patience once reserved for polishing sword blades. Each brushstroke flows like water finding its natural course. The characters that emerge speak not of conquest but of compassion, not of victory but of wisdom. The hand that once wielded steel now creates beauty that outlasts any battlefield triumph. The temple bells that mark the hours teach impermanence, their bronze voices rising and fading like all phenomena in the endless dance of existence. Warriors learn to listen not just with ears but with their entire being, allowing the sound to penetrate every cell, dissolving the boundaries between self and universe, between warrior and weapon, between action and stillness. In the pre-dawn darkness, before the world awakens, these spiritual warriors would sit in perfect silence, their minds as clear as mountain lakes, as vast as the void between stars. The same discipline that once prepared them for battle now prepares them for enlightenment. The same courage that faced external enemies now confronts internal demons of fear, anger, and attachment. The monastery kitchen became a dojo where chopping vegetables required the same mindfulness as cutting with katana. Sweeping floors became an opportunity to practice presence. Tending gardens taught the patience that transforms seeds into flowers. Every activity became a chance to cultivate the awareness that sees Buddha nature in all things. These warrior monks understood that true victory lies not in defeating others but in transcending the illusion of separation. That the sharpest sword is compassion, and that the strongest armor is the wisdom that sees through the dream of conflict to the reality of interconnection. Feel this discipline becoming part of you. Chapter 10. The Battle of Sekigahara, Japan's Destiny. Let yourself drift to the world of the samurai. To October 15, 1600. When the fate of an entire nation was decided in a single morning on the misty plains of Sekigahara. Breathe slowly, and feel yourself transported to this pivotal moment, where the destiny of feudal Nippon hung in the balance like morning dew on spider webs. Picture the valley at dawn, shrouded in autumn fog that clings to the earth like ancestral spirits. Two great armies face each other across fields of rice stubble, their banners hanging limp in the still air. The silence is profound, broken only by the distant cry of cranes flying south and the gentle breathing of 160,000 warriors preparing for what would become the most decisive encounter in the history of the rising sun. On the eastern side, Tokugawa Ieyasu sits motionless on his warhorse, his weathered face calm as a mountain lake. Around him, the disciplined ranks of his followers wait with the patience of monks in meditation. Their armor gleams dully in the gray light, lacquered plates reflecting the subdued colors of dawn. Each warrior understands that this moment will determine whether chaos or order will govern their beloved homeland. Across the field, Ishida Mitsunari leads the Western Coalition, a collection of powerful daimyo united by their opposition to Tokugawa's growing influence. Picture their camp as the night before, where strategy was discussed over bowls of rice and tea, where prayers were offered at portable shrines, and where warriors wrote final letters to families they might never see again. The morning mist begins to lift like a curtain rising on history's stage, revealing the careful formations that will soon dissolve into the controlled chaos of combat. But even in this moment of impending conflict, the principles of bushido shine through. Warriors bow respectfully to opponents they are about to face, acknowledging the courage it takes to stand for one's convictions. As the first arrows arc through the air like deadly calligraphy against the gray sky, the sound they make is almost musical, a whispered song of steel and bamboo. The clash begins not with savage fury, but with the disciplined precision of a deadly dance. Each movement calculated, each decision weighed against the code that values duty above life. Kobayakawa Hideaki's betrayal unfolds like a tragic poem, his forces positioned on Mount Matsuo choosing neutrality when loyalty was expected. Picture this moment not as cowardice, but as the terrible weight of impossible choices, when personal survival conflicts with abstract principle. The fog of war becomes literal and metaphorical, obscuring both vision and moral clarity. The tide turns when Western allies begin switching sides, their defection flowing like water finding its natural course. Tokugawa's patient strategy, built on years of careful relationship building, proves stronger than the passionate but fragmented opposition. Victory comes not through superior violence, but through superior understanding of human nature. In 6 hours, the fate of a nation is sealed. The Western army dissolves like morning mist before the rising sun, leaving behind a field littered not just with the fallen, but with the fragments of an old order. Picture the aftermath in contemplative silence, where even victors move with reverence among the departed, understanding that triumph and tragedy are separated by the thinnest of margins. Tokugawa's victory establishes the Edo period, 250 years of unprecedented peace that will transform the warrior class from fighters into administrators, philosophers, and artists. The swords that carved this destiny will gradually become ceremonial objects, symbols of principles rather than instruments of conflict. Picture this transformation as a collective meditation, where an entire society learns to find strength in restraint. The lessons of Sekigahara echo through centuries, teaching that lasting victory comes not from crushing opposition, but from creating conditions where former enemies can find dignified roles in a new order. Many defeated warriors were pardoned, their skills redirected toward building rather than destroying, their bushido spirit channeled into governance, education, and cultural refinement. And as you rest in the contemplation of this decisive moment, if these journeys through samurai history bring you calm, consider subscribing to our channel, so more secrets of ancient Japan can find you when you need them most. The battlefield grows quiet as evening approaches. Cherry blossoms from nearby trees drift across the ground like nature's memorial. The spirits of the fallen seem to whisper that their sacrifice purchased not just political victory, but the peace that would allow their descendants to flourish in ways they could never have imagined. Allow the bushido to accompany you in dreams. Chapter 11. The Ronin, masterless samurai journey with me now to the time of bushido, when warriors without lords wandered the ancient roads of Nippon like autumn leaves carried by mountain winds. These Ronin, literally, wave people, drifted through feudal society seeking purpose and redemption. Breathe deeply, and feel yourself walking alongside these noble souls who found dignity even in displacement. Picture the Tokaido Highway at dawn, where mist rises from rice paddies and cherry blossoms drift across stone bridges. A solitary figure moves with quiet grace along the worn path, his straw hat casting shadows over weathered features, his katana wrapped in simple cloth. This masterless warrior carries himself with the same dignity he possessed when serving a great lord, understanding that true nobility comes from within. The Ronin emerged from the turbulent transitions of feudal Japan, when domains were abolished or lords fell from favor. Their retainers faced an impossible choice: abandon the way of the warrior or maintain bushido principles without institutional support. Many chose the harder path, preserving their code while adapting to circumstances their ancestors never imagined. Imagine such a warrior stopping at a roadside shrine, kneeling on worn stones to offer prayers for his departed master. The wooden structure is simple, weathered by countless seasons, yet sacred in its humble devotion. Cherry petals fall like tears around him as he remembers better days, when duty was clear and purpose unquestioned. Yet even in loss, he finds reasons for gratitude. Some ronin became teachers, sharing their martial skills and philosophical wisdom with merchant families and farmers' sons. Picture a modest dojo in a provincial town, where tatami mats cover wooden floors and afternoon sunlight streams through paper windows. Here, the masterless warrior transforms his knowledge into legacy, proving that true mastery lies not in serving power but in serving principle. Others found purpose as protectors of the weak, their swords defending villages from bandits or corrupt officials. These wandering guardians asked for little, perhaps a bowl of rice and a place to sleep beneath the stars. Their reward came not from gold but from the gratitude in children's eyes, the relief in farmers' voices, the knowledge that bushido lived on in acts of selfless service. The famous tale of the 47 Ronin exemplifies this transformation of loss into loyalty. After their masters forced seppuku, these warriors spent 2 years planning their revenge, not from hatred but from love. They worked as merchants and laborers, hiding their true nature while preparing for their final act of devotion. Picture them gathering in secret, their faces illuminated by candlelight, planning not for personal gain but for the restoration of their lord's reputation. Many ronin found solace in artistic pursuits, channeling their disciplined spirits into poetry, painting, and calligraphy. Imagine a masterless warrior sitting by a mountain stream, brush in hand, creating ink paintings of bamboo groves and soaring cranes. His strokes carry the same precision he once brought to swordwork, proving that the warrior's way encompasses all forms of beauty. The tea ceremony became a moving meditation for these displaced souls. In the humble tea house, social distinctions dissolved like sugar in hot water. The ronin could kneel as equals beside merchants and monks, finding in this simple ritual the respect and dignity that society sometimes denied them. Picture the careful preparation, each gesture deliberate and mindful, transforming bitter loss into sweet acceptance. Some wandered for years, seeking a worthy master or a cause that could restore meaning to their existence. These eternal pilgrims carried their entire world in a simple bundle: a spare kimono, writing materials, and the swords that remained their spiritual anchors. They slept under pine trees and awakened to birdsong, finding freedom in their very rootlessness. The changing times of the Meiji Restoration created thousands of new ronin overnight, as the samurai class itself was abolished. Picture these final warriors of the old order, watching steam trains cross landscapes their ancestors had traveled on foot. Some adapted, becoming businessmen or government officials, while others retreated to mountain temples, preserving the old ways through quiet practice. In literature and legend, the ronin became symbols of integrity maintained despite adversity. Their stories remind us that true strength lies not in external circumstances but in internal commitment to worthy principles. They proved that one can lose everything yet remain whole, that displacement can become a form of spiritual journey. The masterless warrior teaches us that purpose comes not from position but from principle, that dignity survives the loss of status, and that sometimes the greatest service requires the courage to stand alone. In their wandering, they found what many with secure positions never discover: the unshakable peace that comes from living according to one's deepest values. Breathe slowly, and let it fade away. Chapter 12. The Art of Japanese Warfare, Strategy and Tactics. Close your eyes and journey with me to feudal Japan, where the art of warfare was elevated to the level of poetry, combining strategic brilliance with aesthetic grace. Breathe slowly, and discover how warriors of Nippon transformed conflict into a disciplined dance of mind and spirit. Picture the morning mist rising from ancient battlefields, where commanders studied terrain like monks contemplating sacred texts. Every hill, stream, and grove of bamboo became part of their strategic meditation. The greatest generals understood that victory belonged not to the strongest, but to those who moved in harmony with natural principles. Sun Tzu's wisdom flowed through samurai strategy like water through mountain valleys. The supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Picture Takeda Shingen in his mountain fortress, studying maps by candlelight, his weathered fingers tracing routes that would outflank opponents through patience rather than force. True mastery lay in winning before the first arrow was drawn. The formation of armies reflected the harmony found in nature. Imagine warriors arranged like migrating cranes, each unit moving in perfect coordination with the whole. The Yari spearmen formed the backbone, steady as mountain pines, while mounted samurai flowed around flanks like swift streams finding their natural course. Ashigaru foot soldiers provided the foundation, humble yet essential as fertile earth. Psychological warfare became an art form. Picture the intimidating war cries echoing across misty valleys, the display of ancestral banners snapping in morning wind, and the deliberate ritual of armor inspection before battle. These ceremonies served not just practical purposes but created the mental conditions where victory could take root. Fear was conquered through preparation and spiritual discipline. The famous Battle of Akehizama demonstrated how smaller forces could triumph through superior timing and understanding. Oda Nobunaga waited until his enemies relaxed during a thunderstorm, then struck like lightning illuminating darkness. Picture his warriors moving silently through rain-soaked forests, their footsteps muffled by nature's own percussion. Victory came through harmony with the elements. Siege warfare required the patience of gardeners tending slow-growing trees. Commanders would surround enemy castles like gentle streams encircling stones, gradually wearing down resistance through persistent pressure rather than violent assault. Picture the besiegers practicing calligraphy and tea ceremony between skirmishes, maintaining their humanity even in the midst of conflict. The use of terrain became a moving meditation on adaptation. Mountain warfare favored mobility and surprise, like deer navigating familiar paths, while river crossings demanded timing as precise as seasonal migrations. Coastal battles incorporated the rhythm of tides, teaching warriors to move with natural cycles rather than against them. Intelligence gathering was elevated to spiritual practice. Ninja scouts moved through enemy territory like shadows at twilight, their success depending not on violence but on invisibility and patience. Picture them perched motionless in pine trees for hours, breathing synchronized with wind through branches, becoming one with their environment. The concept of winning without fighting influenced diplomatic strategies. Skilled commanders would negotiate from positions of strength, offering opponents dignified surrender rather than destruction. This approach preserved both lives and the social fabric that would be needed after conflict ended. Picture treaty ceremonies conducted with the same reverence as tea gatherings. Naval warfare incorporated lessons from fishermen and merchants who understood ocean currents and seasonal winds. Samurai admirals studied the migration patterns of whales and the behavior of seabirds, learning to read weather signs written in cloud formations and wave patterns. Their ships moved across water like brush strokes across silk. The integration of firearms in the 16th century demonstrated the warrior's ability to adapt while maintaining core principles. Picture Ashigaru gunners kneeling in perfect formation, their movements as synchronized as temple drummers. The new weapons were embraced not as abandonment of tradition but as evolution of tactical wisdom. Training emphasized mental discipline over physical prowess. Warriors practiced visualization techniques, imagining battles in complete detail before they occurred. This mental rehearsal created the calm confidence needed for split-second deci. Science, picture young samurai sitting in meditation, their minds as still as mountain lakes, preparing for challenges not yet manifest. The aftermath of battle revealed the true character of victorious commanders. Picture them moving among the wounded, offering water to enemies and allies alike, arranging proper burial rites and composing poems honoring the fallen. Victory without compassion was considered hollow, like beautiful armor worn by an empty soul. Carry this samurai spirit gently in your heart. Chapter 13. Geishas and samurai culture. In this moment, we travel to the land of the rising sun, to the ancient capital of Kyoto, where the refined world of geishas intersected with the disciplined realm of the warrior class, creating a cultural tapestry of extraordinary beauty and depth. Breathe slowly, and enter the floating world where art and bushido danced together like cherry blossoms on evening wind. Picture the lantern-lit streets of Gion district at twilight, where wooden machiya townhouses line narrow cobblestone paths. Their latticed windows glow with warm amber light, while the soft sound of shamisen music drifts from hidden tea houses. Here, in this sanctuary of aesthetic refinement, warriors found respite from the weight of duty and the burden of constant vigilance. The geisha represented the pinnacle of cultural achievement in feudal Nippon, masters of conversation, poetry, dance, and music. Picture a young Maiko in training, her white painted face serene as moonlight on still water, learning to move with the fluid grace of willow branches swaying in gentle breeze. Every gesture deliberate, every word chosen with the precision of calligraphy. For samurai warriors, the tea houses of Kyoto offered something their martial world could not provide, the cultivation of sensitivity and appreciation for life's subtle pleasures. Imagine a battle-hardened commander kneeling on tatami mats, listening to the haunting melody of a koto. His weathered hands holding a cup of sake with the same reverence once reserved for his katana. The relationship between geishas and warriors was built on mutual respect and shared understanding of discipline. Both had dedicated their lives to perfecting their respective arts. Both understood that true mastery required years of patient practice and unwavering commitment to excellence. Picture them engaged in conversation about poetry, philosophy, and the changing seasons, finding common ground in their pursuit of beauty and meaning. The Ochaya tea houses became neutral territories where the rigid hierarchies of feudal society softened like wax near flame. Here, a Ronin masterless warrior could sit beside a powerful daimyo, both equal in their appreciation of a perfectly performed dance or an exquisitely arranged flower display. The geisha's art created spaces where humanity transcended social position. Seasonal celebrations brought these two worlds together in harmonious celebration. During cherry blossom viewing, hanami parties would gather beneath flowering trees, warriors and entertainers sharing sake and composing impromptu poems about the transient beauty surrounding them. Picture these gatherings as moving meditations on impermanence, where the falling petals reminded all present of life's precious fragility. The training of geishas paralleled the discipline of bushido in many ways. Years of rigorous study, submission to demanding teachers, and the cultivation of inner strength through outer refinement. Picture a young apprentice practicing shamisen until her fingers bleed, her dedication as fierce as any warrior's commitment to sword practice. Both paths required the transformation of suffering into art. In the intimate setting of private parties, warriors could explore aspects of their nature that battlefield life suppressed. They learned to appreciate the subtle flavors of Keizeki cuisine, the delicate beauty of ikebana flower arrangements, and the profound emotions conveyed through classical dance. These experiences enriched their understanding of what they fought to protect. The geisha's white makeup and elaborate kimono created a living artwork that embodied the aesthetic principles cherished by samurai culture. The pursuit of perfection in appearance reflected the same attention to detail that warriors brought to maintaining their armor and weapons. Both understood that external beauty must reflect inner discipline and spiritual cultivation. During the peaceful Edo period, when warriors became administrators rather than fighters, their interactions with geisha culture deepened. Picture evening gatherings where former battlefield commanders now discussed literature and art with the same intensity they once brought to military strategy. The tea houses became classrooms where the way of the warrior evolved into the way of the gentleman. The seasonal rhythms that governed geisha performances also shaped samurai consciousness. Spring brought renewal and hope, summer demanded endurance and patience, autumn taught acceptance of change, and winter cultivated inner strength through outer austerity. Both geishas and warriors lived in harmony with these natural cycles, finding wisdom in nature's eternal teachings. The music and dance of the geisha world provided warriors with emotional outlets unavailable in their martial sphere. The melancholy beauty of a well-performed ballad could move the strongest samurai to tears, not from weakness but from the recognition of shared human experience. These moments of vulnerability became sources of strength rather than shame. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the last guests had departed and lanterns were extinguished, both geishas and warriors would find themselves contemplating the same eternal questions. What gives life meaning? How can beauty survive in a world of constant change? How can one serve others while remaining true to oneself? Rest now in this Japanese wisdom. Chapter 14. The Sengoku period. Age of warring states. Imagine yourself walking among cherry blossoms and ancient castles, to the turbulent 16th century when the land of the rising sun was divided among countless warring domains. Yet even in this age of conflict, the principles of bushido transformed chaos into a crucible for greatness. Breathe deeply, and discover how warriors found beauty and meaning amid the storms of change. Picture Japan in 1467, when the Onin War shattered central authority like a stone thrown into still water. The ripples spread across every province, creating opportunities for ambitious daimyo to carve out independent kingdoms. Yet this fragmentation also sparked an unprecedented flowering of military innovation, castle architecture, and warrior culture. In this era of constant warfare, three great unifiers emerged like legendary heroes from ancient tales. Oda Nobunaga, the revolutionary who embraced change; Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the peasant who rose through merit; and Tokugawa Ieyasu, the patient strategist who completed their work. Picture them not as conquerors but as gardeners, each preparing the soil for a unified nation to bloom. Nobunaga's genius lay in recognizing that tradition must evolve to survive. At the Battle of Nagakute, he deployed Ashigaru foot soldiers armed with matchlock rifles, transforming warfare from individual combat to coordinated volleys. Picture these farmers-turned warriors kneeling in perfect formation, their movements synchronized like temple drummers, proving that discipline mattered more than noble birth. The great castles of this period rose like prayers carved in stone and timber. Azuki Castle, Nobunaga's masterpiece, soared 7 stories into the sky, its golden roof tiles catching sunlight like scales on a celestial dragon. These fortresses were more than military installations. They were symbols of order emerging from chaos, beauty triumphing over destruction. Hideyoshi's rise from sandal-bearer to supreme ruler embodied the Sengoku spirit of meritocracy. Picture him as a young man, studying his master's strategies while polishing armor, his keen mind absorbing lessons that noble-born warriors missed. His success proved that in times of change, intelligence and dedication could overcome any disadvantage of birth. The introduction of European firearms created both opportunity and crisis. Traditional samurai worried that these weapons would destroy the personal honor of individual combat. Yet wise commanders like Nobunaga understood that protecting one's people required embracing effective tools. Picture Portuguese traders demonstrating their arquebuses, the sound echoing across castle courtyards like thunder from clear skies. Tea ceremony reached new heights during this violent era, providing warriors with islands of tranquility amid storms of conflict. Sen no Rikyu perfected the art of finding beauty in simplicity, his humble tea houses offering refuge where enemies could meet as fellow seekers of aesthetic truth. Picture battle-scarred commanders kneeling in these tiny sanctuaries, their hands gentle on delicate ceramic bowls. The period's artistic achievements rivaled its military innovations. Screen paintings depicted not just battles but cherry blossoms, autumn maples, and peaceful village scenes. Warriors commissioned works celebrating life's beauty rather than death's drama. These paintings adorned castle walls like windows into the peaceful world they hoped to create. Castle towns flourished as centers of commerce and culture. Picture the bustling streets below fortress walls, where merchants, artisans, and farmers gathered under the protection of warrior lords. These communities demonstrated that military strength served its highest purpose when it enabled civilian life to flourish. The concept of gikokuho, the lower overthrowing the higher, became a defining characteristic of the age. Yet this upheaval followed certain rules. Picture ambitious retainers challenging their lords not through treachery but through superior service, proving their worth through loyalty and competence before claiming greater responsibility. Religious warfare added spiritual dimensions to political conflicts. The warrior monks of Mount Hiei and the Ikko-Ikki peasant leagues fought with the fervor of true believers. Picture these battles not as mere territorial disputes but as clashes between different visions of how society should be organized, each side convinced of their righteousness. The period's end came not through exhaustion but through the wisdom of leaders who recognized that eternal war served no one's interests. Tokugawa's victory at Sekigahara represented not just military triumph but the collective decision of a war-weary nation to choose peace over endless conflict. Picture the moment when swords were sheathed, not in defeat but in hope. The Sengoku period's legacy lay not in its battles but in its demonstration that even the most turbulent times can produce extraordinary achievements. The warriors who survived learned that true strength comes from adaptation, that honor includes knowing when to fight and when to seek peace, and that the greatest victories create conditions for future prosperity. Let the ancient honor settle over you. Chapter 15. Oda Nobunaga, the unifier, travel across the centuries with me, to the turbulent world of 16th century Nippon, where a revolutionary warrior named Oda Nobunaga emerged from the chaos of warring states like a phoenix rising from ashes. Breathe slowly, and discover how this visionary leader transformed not just battlefields but the very soul of feudal society. Picture young Nobunaga in Nagoya Castle, surrounded by the morning mist that clings to ancient pine trees. His unconventional nature troubled traditional retainers who expected their lord to follow established customs, yet even as a youth, he possessed the clarity of vision that sees beyond present circumstances to future possibilities. Like a master gardener who envisions the mature tree within a tiny seedling. The Battle of Akehizama in 1560 revealed his genius for turning disadvantage into opportunity. Facing Imagawa Yoshimoto's vast army, Nobunaga chose patience over panic. Picture him in quiet meditation before dawn, studying weather patterns and enemy movements with the attention of a monk contemplating sacred texts. When the thunderstorm arrived, he moved like lightning itself, swift and decisive. His embrace of European firearms scandalized traditional warriors who viewed individual combat as the essence of bushido. Yet Nobunaga understood that true loyalty to one's people required adopting whatever methods would protect them most effectively. Picture the first Ashigaru gunners training in castle courtyards, their disciplined volleys echoing like temple drums, transforming warfare from personal duels into coordinated strategy. The construction of Azuki Castle embodied his vision of a unified realm. Rising 7 stories toward heaven, its walls gleamed white as fresh snow while golden roof tiles caught sunlight like captured stars. Picture this architectural marvel not as a fortress but as a symbol, demonstrating that beauty and strength could coexist, that power served its highest purpose when it created rather than destroyed. His treatment of religious institutions revealed both ruthlessness and wisdom. The destruction of Enryaku-ji Monastery shocked contemporaries, yet Nobunaga recognized that no institution, however sacred, could be permitted to challenge civil authority through violence. Picture him afterward, kneeling in private prayer, understanding that necessary actions sometimes carry heavy spiritual costs. The Rakuza policies he implemented freed merchants and artisans from guild restrictions, creating economic opportunities that had been stifled for centuries. Imagine bustling market towns beneath castle walls, where innovation flourished like cherry blossoms in spring. His vision extended beyond military conquest to the prosperity that would follow peace. Nobunaga's court became a center of cultural renaissance. He patronized artists, poets, and tea masters who created works of extraordinary beauty. Picture evening gatherings in his private chambers, where battle-scarred commanders discussed poetry with the same intensity they brought to military strategy. The warrior's way encompassed all forms of human excellence. His relationship with foreign missionaries demonstrated remarkable openness to new ideas. While maintaining respect for traditional beliefs, he welcomed Jesuit priests and Portuguese traders, recognizing that isolation weakened rather than strengthened his realm. Picture him examining European maps and mechanical clocks, his curiosity as sharp as any blade. The tragic end at Hanaji Temple in 1582 came not from external enemies but from betrayal by his own retainer. Akechi Mitsuhide. Picture Nobunaga's final moments not in despair but in acceptance, understanding that his revolutionary work had created momentum that would continue beyond his physical presence. His death became a form of seppuku, choosing dignity over capture. His legacy lived on through disciples who completed his vision. Toyotomi Hideyoshi and Tokugawa Ieyasu built upon foundations he had laid, transforming his revolutionary ideas into lasting institutions. Picture them as students honoring their master's memory by fulfilling his dreams of a unified and peaceful nation. The tea ceremony traditions he supported flourished long after his death. Sen no Rikyu's aesthetic of finding beauty in simplicity reflected Nobunaga's own ability to see essential truths beneath surface complexities. In humble tea houses across the realm, warriors continued to practice the mindfulness he had encouraged. Modern visitors to reconstructed Azuki Castle can still feel his presence in the careful proportions and harmonious design. The building embodies his understanding that true power creates beauty rather than destroying it, that leadership means serving something greater than oneself. Picture sunset light playing across those golden tiles, eternal reminder of dreams made manifest. Nobunaga's greatest achievement was not military victory but cultural transformation. He proved that tradition and innovation could coexist, that strength and sensitivity were complementary rather than contradictory. His example inspired generations of leaders who understood that true greatness lies in building rather than conquering. Feel this discipline becoming part of you. Chapter 16. The Tea Ceremony. Ritual of Peace. Let yourself drift to the world of the samurai, where warriors discovered that the greatest battles could be won not with swords, but with the gentle preparation of tea. Breathe slowly, and enter the sacred space where bushido and beauty merged in perfect harmony, transforming simple leaves and hot water into profound spiritual practice. Picture a humble tea house nestled in a bamboo grove, its thatched roof weathered by countless seasons. Cherry blossoms drift past paper windows while the sound of a stone fountain creates nature's own meditation bell. Here, in this sanctuary of simplicity, the most powerful daimyo would kneel as equals with merchants and monks. Sen no Rikyu, the great tea master, understood that true strength comes from restraint. Picture him moving with fluid grace across tatami mats, each gesture as precise as swordwork yet gentle as morning mist. His weathered hands, once skilled in warfare, now found their highest expression in the careful placement of a single flower or the perfect angle of a bamboo ladle. The tea ceremony began before guests arrived, with the host's solitary preparation. Imagine a battle-hardened samurai grinding tea leaves with the same focused attention he once brought to sharpening his katana. The rhythmic sound becomes a form of moving meditation, each circular motion releasing the day's tensions like incense smoke rising toward heaven. The approach to the tea house required symbolic purification. Picture warriors removing their swords at the entrance, hanging these symbols of worldly power on wooden racks like autumn leaves released from branches. They would then cleanse hands and mouth at the stone basin, washing away not just physical dust but spiritual impurities. The crawling entrance, Nijiraguchi, forced even the proudest lords to enter on hands and knees. This humble posture dissolved social hierarchies like sugar in hot water. Inside the 4.5 tatami space, all were equal in their appreciation of beauty and their commitment to peaceful interaction. The small room became vast in its spiritual dimensions. Each utensil carried layers of meaning accumulated over generations. The tea bowl, perhaps crafted by a master potter centuries earlier, connected present participants to an unbroken chain of aesthetic tradition. Picture calloused warrior hands cradling delicate ceramic, finding in its imperfect beauty a reflection of life's own precious fragility. The preparation itself became a dance of mindfulness. Water heated to the perfect temperature, neither boiling nor lukewarm. Tea whisked to jade-colored foam with movements as controlled as martial arts kata. Every action deliberate, every pause meaningful. The ceremony transformed time from linear progression into eternal present. Conversation in the tea house followed special protocols, avoiding discussion of politics, warfare, or personal conflicts. Instead, participants spoke of poetry, seasonal changes, or the subtle qualities of the tea itself. Picture former enemies discovering common ground in their shared appreciation of a perfectly arranged flower or the play of light through bamboo screens. The aesthetic principle of wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence, taught warriors profound lessons about acceptance. A cracked tea bowl repaired with gold lacquer became more beautiful for having been broken, just as human souls could be strengthened by adversity. This philosophy helped samurai find peace with their own scars and limitations. Seasonal awareness permeated every aspect of the ceremony. Spring gatherings featured cherry blossom motifs and fresh green tea, while winter ceremonies emphasized warmth and contemplation. Picture participants attuned to nature's rhythms, finding in seasonal changes reminders of life's constant flow and the wisdom of accepting what cannot be controlled. The final moments of each gathering carried special poignancy, as participants understood that this exact combination of people, weather, and circumstances would never occur again. The tea master's bow of gratitude acknowledged not just the guest's presence but the miraculous convergence of conditions that made beauty possible. Many samurai became devoted practitioners, finding in tea ceremony a complement to their martial training. Both required years of patient practice, attention to minute details, and the cultivation of inner stillness. Picture a master swordsman discovering that the same mind that guided his blade could create moments of transcendent beauty. The tea house became a refuge where warriors could explore aspects of themselves that battlefield life suppressed. Here they could express sensitivity, vulnerability, and aesthetic appreciation without compromising their martial identity. The ceremony proved that strength and gentleness were not opposites but complementary aspects of complete humanity. In the quiet after guests departed, the host would sit alone among the used utensils, contemplating the ephemeral beauty that had been created and dissolved. Like cherry blossoms that bloom briefly then fall, each tea gathering was precious precisely because it could not be repeated or preserved. Allow the bushido to accompany you in dreams. Chapter 17. The 47 Ronin, Vengeance and Honor journey with me now to the time of Bushido, to the snow-covered streets of Edo in 1703, where 47 masterless warriors completed the most famous act of loyalty in the history of the rising sun. Breathe deeply, and witness how love transformed into legend, how duty transcended death, and how sacrifice became immortal. Picture the peaceful morning of March 14, 1701, when Lord Asano Naganori arrived at Edo Castle for the annual ceremony welcoming imperial envoys. Cherry blossoms were beginning to bloom in the castle gardens, their delicate petals drifting like snow across stone pathways. No one could foresee that this day would birth a tale of devotion that would echo through centuries. Kira Yoshinaka, the court official assigned to instruct Asano in proper protocol, possessed a heart as cold as winter frost. His deliberate insults and public humiliations pushed the gentle lord beyond endurance. Picture Asano drawing his short sword in the castle's pine-scented corridors, his single strike expressing not rage but the breaking point of dignity under assault. The punishment was swift and merciless. Asano was ordered to commit seppuku that very evening, while Kira, the true instigator, faced no consequences. Picture the loyal retainers gathering outside their master's residence, watching smoke rise from incense burning within, knowing their world had ended with his final breath. Their lord's death transformed them from honored samurai into masterless ronin. Oishi Kurenosuke, the chief retainer, understood that true loyalty required piety. NCE more than passion. For nearly 2 years, he and his companions lived as merchants, laborers, and wandering monks, hiding their true intentions behind masks of apparent dissolution. Picture Oishi in a sake house, playing the role of a broken man while his mind calculated every detail of their eventual revenge. The 47 met in secret, bound by an oath written in their own blood. Each man knew this path led to certain death, yet they chose loyalty over life, duty over comfort. Picture them gathering in temple shadows, their faces illuminated by candlelight, speaking in whispers of their master's virtue and their own unwavering commitment. On the snowy night of December 14, 1702, they struck like winter lightning. Picture them moving through Edo's silent streets, their straw sandals making no sound on frozen ground. They wore matching black and white jackets bearing their lord's crest, transforming from secret conspirators into proud warriors reclaiming their identity. The assault on Kira's mansion unfolded with the precision of a tea ceremony. Each man knew his role, each movement served the greater purpose. Picture them scaling walls and forcing gates while snow continued to fall, their breath visible in the cold air like departing spirits. They sought not random violence but specific justice. When they found Kira hiding in a storage shed, cowering among charcoal and firewood, they offered him the chance to die with dignity through seppuku. When he refused, Oishi ended his life with the same blade that had taken their master. Picture this moment not as brutality but as the completion of a sacred circle, justice flowing like water finding its natural course. They carried Kira's head to Sengaku-ji Temple, where their lord lay buried beneath a simple stone marker. Picture the dawn procession through empty streets, 47 figures moving like a funeral cortege, their mission complete but their fate sealed. They knelt before their master's grave, offering incense and prayers, finally able to report their duty fulfilled. The authorities faced an impossible dilemma. These men had broken the law yet embodied the highest ideals of bushido. Public sympathy overwhelmingly supported them. Picture the shogun's advisors debating through long nights, weighing justice against mercy, law against loyalty. The decision to allow them honorable death through seppuku satisfied both legal requirements and moral sentiment. On February 4, 1703, the 47 gathered for their final ceremony. Picture them in white robes of purification, their faces serene as mountain lakes. They had transformed personal loss into universal example, proving that some values transcend individual existence. Their synchronized departure became a symphony of sacrifice. They were buried beside their master at Sengaku-ji, their graves marked with simple stones that still receive offerings today. Picture pilgrims leaving incense and flowers, understanding that these warriors achieved something rarer than victory. They transformed death into eternal life, their story becoming more powerful than any sword. The tale of the 47 Ronin teaches that true loyalty requires sacrifice, that duty sometimes demands the ultimate price, and that love expressed through action becomes immortal. Their example inspired countless others to choose principle over convenience, service over self-interest, the eternal over the temporal. In quiet moments at their graves, visitors can almost hear the whispered conversations of these devoted souls, planning their mission with the same care they once brought to serving tea or arranging flowers. Their legacy lives not in the violence they committed but in the love that motivated every action. Breathe slowly, and let it fade away. Chapter 18. The Meiji Restoration. End of the Samurai. Close your eyes and journey with me to feudal Japan, to the pivotal year of 1868, when the ancient world of the samurai dissolved like morning mist before the rising sun of modernity. Breathe slowly, and witness how a warrior class that had defined Nippon for centuries chose transformation over extinction, honor over resistance. Picture the final days of Edo Castle, where Tokugawa Yoshinobu faced the most difficult decision in his family's 250-year reign. Cherry blossoms bloomed as they had for centuries, yet everything familiar was changing. The arrival of Commodore Perry's black ships 15 years earlier had shattered Japan's peaceful isolation like stones thrown into still water. The young Emperor Meiji, barely 16 years old, became the symbol of revolutionary change. Picture him in the ancient capital of Kyoto, surrounded by advisors who understood that Japan must modernize or face colonization. The restoration of imperial rule represented not just political shift but spiritual renewal, a return to divine authority that could legitimize radical transformation. Many samurai faced this transition with the same discipline they had brought to serving their lords. Picture Katsu Kaishu, the shogun's negotiator, meeting with imperial forces to arrange peaceful surrender. His wisdom prevented civil war that could have devastated the nation, choosing pragmatism over pride, the future over the past. This was bushido adapted to new circumstances. The abolition of the Han system in 1871 dissolved the feudal domains overnight. Daimyo who had ruled like independent kings became governors appointed by the central government. Picture these lords surrendering their ancestral lands with the same grace their retainers had shown in laying down their swords, understanding that personal sacrifice served the greater good. The Sword Abolishment Edict of 1876 struck at the very heart of samurai identity. Picture warriors removing their katana for the final time, these sacred blades that had been extensions of their souls. Some wept as they hung up weapons passed down through generations, yet many understood that true strength must evolve with changing times. Saigo Takamori, the last great samurai, embodied both the nobility and tragedy of his class. Picture him in Kagoshima, training young men in traditional martial arts while the world transformed around him. His final rebellion was not mere resistance but a ritualized farewell, a way of dying that preserved the warrior spirit even in defeat. The Battle of Shiroyama in 1877 marked the end of an era. Picture Saigo and his followers facing modern rifles with traditional swords, their courage undiminished by hopeless odds. When wounded beyond fighting, Saigo performed seppuku as cherry blossoms fell around him, his death poem speaking of snow on pine branches, beauty persisting even in winter. Yet the samurai spirit did not die with the class system. Many warriors became leaders in the new Japan. Picture former retainers studying Western technology with the same dedication they had once brought to swordsmanship. Their discipline and loyalty served the nation in new forms, as educators, industrialists, and government officials. The Meiji government wisely incorporated samurai values into modern institutions. The imperial rescript on education emphasized loyalty, filial piety, and service to the emperor. Picture schoolchildren across Japan learning these principles. The warrior ethos transformed from martial code into civic virtue, bushido becoming the foundation of national character. Some samurai found new purpose in preserving traditional arts. Tea ceremony, flower arrangement, and martial arts survived through their dedication. Picture aging warriors teaching young students the proper way to hold a brush, arrange flowers, or bow with respect, ensuring that beauty and discipline would outlive political change. The rapid modernization that followed amazed the world. Within decades, Japan transformed from feudal isolation to industrial power. Picture steam trains crossing landscapes where samurai once rode, telegraph lines connecting cities that had been days apart. The warrior's capacity for adaptation served the nation's rebirth. Modern visitors to samurai museums and reconstructed castles can still feel the presence of these noble souls. Their armor and swords rest in glass cases like sleeping dragons, while their poetry and calligraphy speak across centuries about honor, duty, and the search for meaning in changing times. The true legacy of the samurai lies not in their weapons but in their values. The discipline that once perfected swordsmanship now drives technological innovation. The loyalty once pledged to feudal lords now serves democratic ideals. The aesthetic sensitivity that created tea ceremony continues to influence art and design. In quiet moments, walking through Japanese gardens where stone lanterns cast gentle shadows among carefully pruned pines, one can sense the eternal aspects of bushido. The way of the warrior evolved but never disappeared, transforming from martial code into spiritual practice, from class privilege into universal aspiration. Carry this samurai spirit gently in your heart. Chapter 19. The Last Samurai. Saigo Takamori. In this moment, we travel to the land of the rising sun, to the final chapter of the warrior age, where Saigo Takamori stood like a mountain pine against the winds of change. Breathe slowly, and witness how the last great samurai chose to die as he had lived, with unwavering devotion to the principles that defined his soul. Picture Saigo in his youth, a giant of a man with gentle eyes, walking the volcanic landscapes of Satsuma Domain. His massive frame carried a spirit devoted to justice and loyalty, yet tempered by poetry and compassion. Like cherry blossoms that bloom most beautifully before they fall, his greatest moments would come at the end of an era. As a leader in the Meiji Restoration, Saigo helped overthrow the Tokugawa shogunate, believing that imperial rule would preserve traditional values while embracing necessary change. Picture him in council meetings, his deep voice advocating for gradual modernization that would honor the past while building the future. His vision sought harmony between old wisdom and new knowledge. The government's rapid westernization troubled his samurai heart. Picture him watching former warriors forced to cut their topknots and abandon their swords, their ancient privileges dissolved like morning mist. He understood progress was necessary, yet grieved for the spiritual values being discarded with outdated customs. His resignation from government in 1873 marked the beginning of his final journey. Returning to Kagoshima, he established private schools where young men could study both modern subjects and traditional martial arts. Picture these academies as sanctuaries where bushido survived, students practicing calligraphy and swordsmanship with equal devotion. The Satsuma Rebellion began not from ambition but from loyalty to his students. When government forces came to confiscate weapons from his schools, Saigo faced an impossible choice: abandon his followers or resist the state he had helped create. Picture him in quiet meditation, understanding that either path led to tragedy, yet choosing the way of the warrior. The march to Kumamoto Castle in 1877 became a pilgrimage of the dispossessed. Picture thousands of samurai following their beloved leader, their traditional armor gleaming in spring sunshine. They moved with the dignity of men who knew they marched toward death, yet found meaning in the manner of their departure. The siege revealed both the nobility and futility of their cause. Modern artillery destroyed castle walls that had withstood centuries of traditional warfare. Picture Saigo's warriors charging machine guns with katana raised, their courage absolute even as their cause became hopeless. They fought not for victory but for the right to die as samurai. As defeat became inevitable, Saigo's followers melted away like snow in spring. Picture him with his final band of loyal retainers, retreating to Shiroyama, the mountain that would become their tomb. They spent their last nights composing poetry and sharing memories of better times, finding beauty even in approaching darkness. The final battle on September 24th unfolded like a ritual drama. Picture Saigo, wounded and unable to fight, performing seppuku as his enemies closed in. His death poem spoke of fallen leaves returning to earth, accepting the natural cycle of rise and decline. His loyal friend Beppu Shinsuke served as kaishakunin, ensuring his master's dignity in death. The government forces who found his body treated it with profound respect. Picture them bowing before the fallen giant, recognizing that they had witnessed the end of an age. Emperor Meiji himself later pardoned Saigo posthumously, understanding that his rebellion came from love of country rather than personal ambition. Saigo's legacy transcended his defeat. Picture his statue in Ueno Park, where he walks his beloved dog in eternal peace. Children play around the monument, unaware they pass near a man who embodied the samurai ideal. His example inspired future generations to serve with integrity regardless of personal cost. His writings reveal a soul torn between duty and conscience. The way of heaven is to benefit others without harming oneself. The way of man is to benefit oneself without regard for others. Picture him struggling with these contradictions, seeking a path that honored both progress and principle. Modern Japan remembers him not as a rebel but as a patriot who chose principle over pragmatism. His schools produced leaders who served the new nation with traditional values, proving that bushido could evolve without disappearing. Picture former students becoming teachers, diplomats, and industrialists, carrying his influence into the modern world. In the cherry blossom season, visitors to Kagoshima still feel his presence. The volcanic landscape he loved remains unchanged, while the society he helped birth has become unrecognizable. Yet his essential message endures, that true greatness lies in serving something greater than oneself. Rest now in this Japanese wisdom. Chapter 20. The Samurai Legacy. Eternal Spirit. Imagine yourself walking among cherry blossoms and ancient castles, where the spirit of the samurai lives on in modern Japan, transcending time like morning mist that becomes evening dew. Breathe deeply, and discover how the way of the warrior transformed from martial code into eternal wisdom that guides hearts across the world. Picture contemporary Tokyo, where glass towers rise like modern castles, yet in quiet gardens between skyscrapers, stone lanterns still cast gentle shadows among carefully tended pines. Here, office workers practice morning meditation with the same discipline their ancestors brought to swordsmanship. The warrior spirit adapted, evolved, but never disappeared. In corporate boardrooms, the principles of bushido guide business decisions. Loyalty to company and colleagues, integrity in negotiations, and the long-term view that values reputation over immediate profit. Picture executives bowing respectfully to partners, their gestures carrying centuries of tradition. Modern samurai serve with briefcases instead of swords. The martial arts dojos scattered throughout Japan preserve the physical disciplines that once trained warriors. Picture students in white uniforms moving through kata with fluid precision, their breathing synchronized, minds focused. Each movement connects them to an unbroken chain of masters stretching back through centuries. The way of the sword became the way of self-cultivation. Tea ceremony continues to teach the mindfulness that once prepared samurai for battle. Picture modern practitioners kneeling on tatami mats, whisking matcha with the same attention their ancestors gave to polishing katana. The ceremony transforms ordinary moments into sacred encounters, proving that beauty and discipline remain inseparable. In schools across Japan, students learn not just academic subjects but moral education rooted in samurai values. Respect for teachers, dedication to group harmony, and the understanding that individual success serves collective welfare. Picture children cleaning their classrooms with the same care samurai showed in maintaining their armor, duty becoming second nature. The aesthetic principles that guided warrior culture influence everything from architecture to flower arrangement. Picture the clean lines of modern Japanese design, where empty space speaks as eloquently as filled areas. This is wabi-sabi made contemporary, finding beauty in simplicity, strength in restraint, perfection in imperfection. Japanese manufacturing excellence reflects samurai dedication to continuous improvement. Picture craftsmen in automotive factories approaching their work with the same perfectionist spirit that once forged legendary swords. Each product becomes an expression of honor, quality, a form of service to society. The warrior's pursuit of mastery transformed into industrial artistry. The concept of lifetime employment, though changing, echoed the feudal bonds between lord and retainer. Picture workers dedicating entire careers to single companies, their loyalty reciprocated with job security and mutual respect. This was bushido adapted to modern economics, personal relationships forming the foundation of business success. International diplomacy carries forward the samurai understanding that true strength comes from restraint. Picture Japanese negotiators seeking win-win solutions, their approach emphasizing patience over pressure, consensus over confrontation. The warrior's wisdom that the greatest victories avoid unnecessary conflict guides peaceful relations. In times of natural disaster, the samurai spirit shines most clearly. Picture communities responding to earthquakes and tsunamis with calm discipline, neighbors helping neighbors without thought of reward, accepting hardship with dignity while working together for recovery. The warrior's courage transformed into civilian resilience. Popular culture worldwide embraces samurai ideals through films, literature, and philosophy. Picture audiences in distant countries moved by stories of loyalty, sacrifice, and the search for meaning through service. The warrior's example transcends cultural boundaries, speaking to universal human aspirations for nobility and purpose. Modern martial artists around the globe study not just techniques but the philosophical foundations of bushido. Picture practitioners in New York, London, and Sao Paulo beginning classes with moments of silent reflection, learning that true mastery requires humility, that strength serves protection, that discipline creates freedom. The cherry blossom festivals that draw millions of visitors represent more than seasonal beauty. Picture families gathering beneath blooming trees, sharing food and contemplating life's transient nature. This is Mono no Aware, the samurai understanding that beauty gains meaning from its temporary nature, that acceptance of impermanence brings peace. In quiet temples where samurai once prayed, modern visitors still find the same sense of connection to something greater than themselves. Picture pilgrims lighting incense before ancient statues, their prayers carrying the same hopes for wisdom, courage, and compassion that motivated warriors centuries ago. The samurai legacy reminds us that honor is not outdated, that loyalty enriches rather than restricts, and that true strength comes from serving others. Picture this wisdom flowing like an underground river, surfacing wherever people seek meaning beyond material success. The way of the warrior became the way of the heart. Let the ancient honor settle over you. Closing. The eternal way of the warrior *, and now, as our journey through the sacred lands of Japan draws to a gentle close, let yourself rest in the profound wisdom we have discovered together. Breathe slowly and deeply, feeling the timeless spirit of bushido settling into your heart like snow falling on pine branches, soft, silent, and eternal. We have walked together through 20 chapters of extraordinary beauty and meaning. From the misty origins of the samurai in the Heian period, where farmers first took up swords to protect what they loved, to the final transformation of warrior values into modern principles that guide millions around the world. Each step has revealed deeper truths about courage, loyalty, and the art of living with honor. Picture yourself once more in that first ancient dojo, where young warriors learned that the sharpest blade is compassion, that true victory comes through restraint, and that the strongest fortress is built from integrity rather than stone. Feel how this wisdom has grown within you, like a seed planted in fertile soil, ready to bloom in your own life. We discovered how the forging of the katana became a sacred ritual, where master smiths folded steel with the same reverence monks brought to prayer, teaching us that excellence requires patience, that beauty emerges from discipline, and that anything worth creating deserves our complete devotion. Let this understanding flow through you now, transforming your own daily efforts into acts of quiet artistry. In the halls of the shogunate, we learned that leadership means service, that power without wisdom becomes tyranny, and that the greatest rulers are those who govern themselves first. Feel this lesson settling into your consciousness, reminding you that true authority comes from inner strength, not external position. The code of bushido showed us 7 virtues that remain as relevant today as they were centuries ago. Rectitude that keeps us true to our principles. courage that acts despite uncertainty, benevolence that protects the innocent, respect that honors all beings, honesty as pure as mountain spring water, honor more precious than any treasure, and loyalty that endures beyond death itself. These values now live within you, guiding lights for whatever challenges await. Through Miyamoto Musashi's legendary journey, we discovered that mastery comes not from defeating others but from conquering our own limitations, that the greatest enemy is doubt, and that perfection lies not in never failing but in never giving up. Feel this warrior's spirit strengthening your resolve, his example proving that any obstacle can be overcome through persistent practice and unwavering dedication. The profound ritual of seppuku taught us that some principles are worth more than life itself, that dignity can transform even death into victory, and that true courage often requires the greatest sacrifice. While we may never face such extreme choices, this lesson reminds us to live with such integrity that we need never fear any consequence of doing what is right. In the elegant castles of feudal Japan, we saw how strength and beauty could coexist in perfect harmony, how warriors created spaces that nourished the soul while protecting the body. Let this vision inspire you to build your own life with the same attention to both function and aesthetics, creating environments that serve practical needs while feeding spiritual hunger. The marriage of Zen and Bushido revealed that the greatest battles are fought within the quiet chambers of our own hearts, that meditation and martial arts spring from the same source, and that true peace can only be found by those brave enough to face their inner demons. Feel this understanding deepening your own practice, whether in formal meditation or simply in bringing mindful attention to ordinary moments. At Sekigahara, we witnessed how individual choices shape the destiny of nations, how loyalty and betrayal dance together on history's stage, and how the most decisive moments often come disguised as routine decisions. This reminds us that every day, every choice, carries the potential to change not just our own lives but the lives of everyone around us. The Ronin taught us that dignity survives the loss of status, that purpose comes from principle rather than position, and that sometimes the greatest service requires the courage to stand alone. Their wandering spirit reminds us that home is not a place but a way of being. That as long as we carry our values within us, we can never truly be lost. Through the strategies and tactics of Japanese warfare, we learned that the greatest victories avoid unnecessary conflict, that true strength adapts to circumstances while remaining rooted in unchanging principles, and that the most effective leaders are those who understand both human nature and natural law. These lessons guide us in navigating the conflicts of daily life with wisdom rather than mere force. The refined world of geishas showed us how art and discipline intertwine, how beauty can civilize the strongest warriors, and how appreciation for life's subtle pleasures enhances rather than weakens our capacity for great deeds. This reminds us to cultivate sensitivity alongside strength, to find time for poetry as well as practical concerns. In the turbulent Sengoku period, we saw how times of greatest upheaval often produce the most extraordinary achievements, how chaos can become the fertile ground for unprecedented creativity, and how visionary leaders transform crisis into opportunity. When your own life feels unsettled, remember these warriors who found their greatest strength in adaptation. Through Oda Nobunaga's revolutionary spirit, we learned that true conservatism sometimes requires radical change, that preserving what matters most may mean abandoning familiar forms, and that the courage to embrace new methods conserve ancient values. This wisdom helps us navigate our own changing world while staying true to timeless principles. The tea ceremony revealed how the simplest actions can become profound spiritual practices, how serving others creates the deepest joy, and how finding beauty in ordinary moments transforms life into continuous celebration. Let this understanding infuse your own daily rituals, making each meal, each conversation, each quiet moment a sacred opportunity. The 47 Ronin demonstrated that love sometimes requires the ultimate sacrifice, that loyalty can transcend death itself, and that actions motivated by pure devotion achieve a form of immortality. Their example reminds us that the relationships we cherish are worth any effort, any patience, any personal cost. The Meiji Restoration showed us that even the most dramatic changes can preserve essential truths, that adaptation and integrity need not be enemies, and that the strongest traditions are those flexible enough to serve new circumstances. This helps us understand that holding on to what matters most sometimes requires letting go of familiar forms. Saigo Takamori's final stand taught us that there are fates worse than death, that choosing how we end matters as much as how we begin, and that sometimes the most powerful victory comes through noble defeat. His example reminds us to live with such authenticity that we need never compromise our deepest values for any worldly advantage. Finally, we discovered that the samurai legacy lives on in countless ways, from corporate boardrooms to neighborhood dojos, from disaster relief efforts to quiet moments of personal reflection. The way of the warrior evolved from martial code into universal wisdom, proving that true strength never dies but simply finds new forms of expression. As you rest now in perfect peace, feel these 20 lessons settling into your being like sediment in a clear mountain pool. Each truth we've discovered together becomes part of your inner landscape, available whenever you need guidance, courage, or simply the reminder that you carry within yourself the same noble potential that created legends. The cherry blossoms that witnessed so many samurai stories continue to bloom each spring, their brief beauty reminding us that life's preciousness comes from its temporary nature. Like those warriors who found eternity in fleeting moments of perfect service, you too can discover that meaning comes not from duration but from depth, not from what we accumulate but from what we give. Let the discipline, that forged legendary swords strengthen your own commitment to excellence. Let the loyalty that bound lord and retainer deepen your dedication to those you love. Let the aesthetic sensitivity that created tea ceremony bring beauty to your simplest actions. Let the courage that faced impossible odds give you strength for tomorrow's challenges. The temple bells that called samurai to prayer still ring across Japan, their bronze voices rising and fading like all phenomena in the endless dance of existence. As their sound dissolves into silence, so too let all thoughts, all concerns, all tensions dissolve into the peaceful void from which they arose. You are part of this ancient story now, connected across centuries to warriors who chose service over selfishness, principle over convenience, beauty over brutality. Their spirit flows through you like an underground river, surfacing whenever you act with integrity, speak with honesty, or choose the harder path because it leads toward truth. Rest now in this knowledge, knowing that you carry within yourself the same capacity for honor that created legends, the same potential for loyalty that inspired poetry, the same ability to find meaning through service that transformed ordinary human beings into immortal examples. If this journey through Samurai Japan brought you peace, consider subscribing to our channel and sharing these lessons of honor with others who love Japanese culture. More secrets of Bushido await you here when you return. The way of the warrior is now your way, not as burden but as blessing, not as rigid rule but as flexible wisdom, not as ancient history but as living truth. Sleep peacefully, samurai spirit, knowing that tomorrow offers fresh opportunities to embody the timeless values we have discovered together. The cherry blossoms fall, but their beauty remains. The warriors departed, but their example endures. The old world ended, but its wisdom continues. And you, carrying these gifts forward, become part of the eternal story? Good night.